I was staring at the birthday cake in front of me, 26 candles flickering in the dim light of the restaurant, when my father stood up and decided to ruin my life in front of everyone I loved. "Before we sing," Dad said, his voice cutting through the chatter, "I think everyone should know the truth about the birthday girl." He smiled, but there was nothing warm about it. "My daughter, the college dropout." Again. The table went silent. My mom's fork clattered against her plate. My younger sister Emma's eyes went wide. My boyfriend Marcus reached for my hand under the table, but I pulled away, my entire body going cold. "Dad, what are you?" "I got a call from the university last week," he continued, louder now, making sure the tables around us could hear. "Turns out you've been lying to us for 6 months. Failed out of your graduate program. Didn't even have the guts to tell your own family." My aunt covered her mouth. My grandmother looked at me with such disappointment I wanted to sink through the floor. Marcus was staring at me, confusion written all over his face. "Is that true?" Mom whispered. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Because yes, I had failed out. But not because I was lazy or stupid or any of the things I could see forming in their minds. I failed out because 6 months ago, I had discovered something that shattered everything I thought I knew about my perfect family. I can explain, I managed, but Dad wasn't done. "You've been pretending to go to classes, pretending to study, while really you've been doing God knows what with our money. The tuition we paid. The apartment we're covering. All of it wasted on a liar." "That's enough," I said quietly. "No, it's not enough. You need to take responsibility for once in your life. You need to." I said that's enough. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Every eye in the restaurant was on us now. "You want to talk about lies? You want to talk about taking responsibility?" Dad's face reddened. "Sit down. You're making a scene." "No, you made a scene. You stood up at my birthday dinner and tried to humiliate me in front of everyone I care about. So now I'm going to tell them why I really failed out of school." Mom stood up too. "Sweetheart, maybe we should." "I failed out because I spent the last 6 months hiring a private investigator to follow Dad." The silence that followed was absolute. Dad's face went from red to white in seconds. "What?" I reached into my purse and pulled out the folder I'd been carrying for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Or maybe the wrong moment. Maybe I'd been hoping I'd never have to use it at all. "6 months ago, I went to surprise you at your office for lunch," I said, my voice shaking but steady. "I wanted to show you my midterm grades. I was so proud. Straight A's. I thought you'd finally tell me you were proud of me too." I could see it in his eyes now. He knew where this was going. "But when I got there, your secretary said you were in a meeting." I waited. And while I waited, I overheard her on the phone with someone, talking about how she had to reschedule your hotel reservation. "The one you share with your girlfriend every Thursday afternoon." Mom made a sound like she'd been punched. "That's ridiculous," Dad said, but his voice cracked. "You misunderstood. I hired an investigator the next day. His name is Robert Chin. He's very good at his job." I opened the folder, hands trembling. 6 months of surveillance. Photos. Hotel receipts. Credit card statements for the apartment you've been renting for her on the north side. The one you told Mom was a business investment property. I spread the photos across the table. Dad with a woman who wasn't my mother, holding hands outside a cafe. Kissing in a parking garage. Entering a hotel together. Leaving separately an hour later. Emma gasped. Grandma clutched her chest. My aunt started crying. "Her name is Jessica Moreno," I continued, my voice breaking now. "She's 32. She works in marketing. You've been seeing her for 3 years. 3 years." Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "But that's not even the worst part." I pulled out more documents. Bank statements. Property records. "The worst part is what you've been doing with our family's money to keep her happy." Dad lunged for the papers, but Marcus stood up, blocking him. My boyfriend might not have understood everything that was happening, but he understood enough to know whose side he was on. "The investment property you told Mom about?" The one that was supposed to generate rental income for our retirement? You put it in Jessica's name. Not yours. Not the family trust. Hers. Mom grabbed the deed, her hands shaking so badly she could barely read it. And the $75,000 you withdrew from the joint account last year? The money you said was for renovating the rental property? That was a down payment on a car for her. A Mercedes. Also in her name. I pulled out more papers, my vision blurring with tears. The business trips to Atlanta you've been taking twice a month? There's no client in Atlanta. There's just a vacation condo you've been renting. For you and Jessica. I have the lease agreement right here. 2-year lease. You signed it 14 months ago. The rent is $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year for a place Mom doesn't even know exists. Stop, Dad said weakly. The college fund you set up for Emma? The one that's supposed to have $100,000 in it for when she starts university next year? You drained $40,000 of it 6 months ago. To buy Jessica jewelry. Custom pieces from a designer in New York. Emma let out a sob. She'd been working part-time at a coffee shop for 2 years, saving every penny for college, while Dad told her the fund would cover most of her expenses. And the reason I failed out of school? I was crying now, angry tears streaming down my face. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't study. Because every day I had to watch Mom smile at you over breakfast, watch her plan your anniversary party, watch her brag to her friends about what a wonderful husband and provider you are. And every day I had to carry this weight, knowing I was going to destroy her when I finally told her the truth. I turned to my mother, whose face was streaked with mascara and tears. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have told you right away. But I wanted to be sure. I wanted to have proof. I wanted to know exactly how deep this went. Because I kept thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was just once. Maybe he'd end it. But it never ended. It only got worse. I pulled out another document. Financial statements from an account I'd never seen before. He opened a secret credit card 3 years ago. The same month he met Jessica. He's been charging everything on it. Restaurants, hotels, gifts, trips. The balance is $68,000. And guess who's listed as a joint account holder without her knowledge? I slid the statement toward my mother. You are, Mom. He used your social security number to open the account. He's been making minimum payments from the household budget. The money you thought was going to utilities? Half of it has been going to pay interest on the debt he racked up with his mistress. My grandmother stood up, her voice shaking with rage. Richard, how could you? Dad wouldn't look at her. Wouldn't look at any of us. There's more, I said, pulling out another document. The retirement account you both contributed to for 25 years? He took out a loan against it. $50,000. Told the company he needed it for medical expenses. He's been paying it back at a rate that means you'll both have to work an extra 5 years before you can retire. Mom's hands were trembling so badly she dropped the papers. And the timeshare in the Bahamas you surprised Mom with for your anniversary 2 years ago? The one she was so excited about? You've used it 6 times. She's used it twice. Jessica's been there with you the other 4 times. I have the resort records. Her name is in the guest log. I pulled out the last major document. A loan application. 2 months ago, Dad tried to take out a second mortgage on our house. The house you both own. The house we grew up in. He forged your signature on the application. Mom looked at Dad with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not even hurt. Something colder. Something final. He wanted $300,000. The loan officer flagged it because the signature didn't match the one on file. They called me instead of you because I'm listed as the emergency contact on the property records. I've been working with the bank and a lawyer to make sure the application was rejected and that Dad couldn't try again. Dad finally spoke, his voice hollow. I was going to pay it all back. With what? I shot back. You're drowning in debt. The credit cards, the loans, the properties. You're bleeding money trying to maintain 2 lives. Did you really think you could keep this going forever? I loved her, he said quietly. The words hung in the air like poison. You loved her. Mom's voice was ice. What about me? What about our children? What about the vows you made? The life we built? I love you too, he said desperately. I never stopped loving you. It was just. Don't. I cut him off. Don't try to make this anything other than what it is. You're a selfish, manipulative coward who stole from his own family to impress another woman. I pulled out more photos. I also found out that Jessica isn't the first. There was someone named Lauren 4 years ago. You bought her a car too. Alexis. She broke things off when she found out you were married. And someone named Melissa before that. She got a boat. She also ended it when she learned the truth. The entire restaurant was watching now. Servers had stopped serving. Other diners had abandoned their meals. The manager stood near the kitchen, phone in hand, probably ready to call security. I spent 6 months gathering all of this. I hired the investigator. I followed up on leads. I dug through financial records. I contacted former girlfriends. I talked to lawyers and accountants. I missed classes. Failed exams. Stopped showing up to my thesis meetings. My advisor tried to work with me, gave me extensions, offered support, but eventually, I just stopped going altogether. I failed out because I was trying to protect this family from you. I looked at my father, this man I'd idolized my entire childhood, and felt absolutely nothing. You stood up tonight and tried to shame me. Tried to make me look like a failure in front of everyone. But I'm not the failure here. You are. You're a liar, a cheat, and a thief. You stole from your own family. You stole from your daughter's future. You committed fraud. You betrayed every single person at this table. And you were willing to destroy me to keep your secrets safe. Dad finally looked up, tears streaming down his face. I can explain. No, Mom's voice cut through the air like a blade. You can't. She stood, gathering the documents with shaking hands. We're leaving. Emma, get your things. Marcus, would you mind giving us a ride? Of course, Mrs. Chen. Wait, Dad said, panic creeping into his voice. Karen, please, we can talk about this. Talk. Mom laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You want to talk now? After 3 years of lying? After stealing from our daughter's education fund? After forging my signature? After opening credit cards in my name? After gambling away our retirement? She leaned close to him, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried across the silent restaurant. I gave you everything. 28 years of my life. I raised your children. I kept your home. I supported your career. I stood by you through every struggle, every setback, every triumph. I loved you with everything I had. And you repaid me by stealing from our children and sleeping with women young enough to be your daughter. She straightened up, and despite the tears, despite the devastation written across her face, she looked stronger than I'd ever seen her. I want you out of the house by tomorrow night. Take whatever you can carry. Everything else, we'll sort through lawyers. And if you try to contact me, if you try to manipulate me or guilt me or convince me this is somehow my fault, I will make sure every single person in your life knows exactly what you've done. Your colleagues, your clients, your golf buddies, everyone. You can't just watch me. She grabbed her purse and turned to me. I'm sorry I didn't believe in you more. I'm sorry you had to carry this alone. I'm sorry I was so blind. Mom, you couldn't have known. I should have known. The signs were there. The late nights. The mysterious expenses. The distance. I chose not to see it because I didn't want to believe the man I loved could betray me like this. She touched my face gently. But you saw it. And you were brave enough to find the truth. Even when it cost you everything. I'm so proud of you. Emma wrapped her arms around both of us, sobbing. My aunt and grandmother joined in, creating a circle of support around us. Marcus stood close, his hand on my shoulder. As we walked toward the exit, I heard Dad call out one more time. What about my birthday gift? You didn't even let her open my gift. I stopped, turned around, and walked back to the table. There was a small wrapped box next to my untouched cake. I picked it up, tore off the paper. Inside was a jewelry box. Inside that, a delicate necklace with a small diamond pendant. I looked at the receipt tucked in the box. Purchased 2 days ago for $300. Is this from the same jeweler in New York? I asked quietly. The one you used for Jessica? Dad didn't answer. I looked at the necklace more closely. It was pretty. Delicate. The kind of thing I might have loved if it had come from someone who actually cared about me. You bought this with the joint credit card, didn't you? The one that's supposed to be for household emergencies. Still no answer. I handed the box to Emma. Pawn it. Put the money toward your college fund. Consider it a small payment on the $40,000 he stole from you. We left him sitting there alone, surrounded by the wreckage of his lies and the silent judgment of 100 strangers. The drive home was silent. Mom sat in the front seat, staring out the window. Emma cried quietly in the back. Marcus drove carefully, giving us space to process what had just happened. When we got home, the house felt different. Like a place that used to be safe but wasn't anymore. Mom went straight to the bedroom and started packing Dad's things. Emma helped. I called the lawyer I'd been working with and told him everything had come out, that Mom wanted to move forward with divorce immediately. That night, we all slept in the living room together. Mom on the couch, Emma and me on the floor with blankets and pillows. We didn't talk much. We just needed to be close to each other. The next 3 months were chaos. Mom filed for divorce immediately. The lawyer I'd been working with helped us secure restraining orders after Dad showed up drunk at the house twice, begging for another chance. He tried to enter through the garage the second time, and we had to call the police. We discovered even more financial infidelity as we dug through the wreckage of his double life. Credit cards we didn't know about maxed out. Another investment property in Florida, underwater on the mortgage. A storage unit full of expensive gifts he'd bought for various women over the years, but never given. A whole second life built on our family's foundation, crumbling now that the light had been turned on. The divorce was brutal. Dad fought for joint assets, claiming he deserved half of everything despite the fraud and theft. His lawyer tried to argue that the affair was irrelevant to the financial settlement. Our lawyer buried them in evidence of financial misconduct, identity theft, and fraud. Emma's college fund was replenished through the divorce settlement. Mom got the house, the car, and 70% of the remaining assets. Dad got supervised visitation rights with Emma until she turned 18 in a few months, at which point she made it clear she had no interest in seeing him ever again. The secret credit card debt became his responsibility entirely. The retirement loan, his problem. The underwater Florida property, his burden. Mom's lawyer made sure every fraudulent dollar was traced back to him and him alone. Jessica Moreno, it turned out, had no idea Dad was married. When my investigator contacted her with the evidence, she was horrified. She ended things immediately and returned the Mercedes. She even wrote my mother an apology letter, explaining that Dad had told her he was divorced, that his ex-wife had custody of the kids, that he was just waiting for the right time to introduce her to his family. She'd believed every word. She sent back the jewelry too. Mom sold it all and put the money toward Emma's college fund. As for me, I spent those 3 months in therapy, working through the trauma of carrying such a devastating secret and the guilt of failing out of school. My therapist helped me understand that I'd been trying to carry a burden that was never mine to bear. That my father's choices were his own. That protecting my family had been noble, but sacrificing my own future had been unnecessary. My advisor from the university reached out after hearing about the situation through mutual connections. She'd been concerned when I disappeared, had tried to reach me, had suspected something was terribly wrong. She helped me petition for readmission under extenuating circumstances, writing a letter of support that detailed my academic excellence before the crisis and her belief in my ability to succeed. The university committee reviewed my case. They looked at my transcript before the failure, my advisor's recommendation, the documentation of the family crisis. They granted me readmission with the condition that I retake the failed courses and meet regularly with my advisor. For months after my birthday dinner, I was back in graduate school. It wasn't easy. I had to retake classes, rebuild my thesis from scratch, prove to my professors that I was serious and stable and ready to succeed. But this time, I wasn't carrying anyone's secrets. I wasn't lying to anyone. I wasn't sacrificing my own future to protect someone who didn't deserve it. I was just me working toward my own goals, building my own life. The first week back was terrifying. I kept waiting for something to go wrong, for another crisis to derail me. But nothing happened. I went to class. I took notes. I studied. I turned in assignments. Normal student things. It felt strange after so long. Marcus and I are still together. He proposed 3 months ago in the same restaurant where everything fell apart. When I asked him why he'd choose that place, he said he wanted to replace the terrible memory with a good one. He wanted to reclaim that space and fill it with love instead of betrayal. We're planning a small wedding, just close friends and family. Dad isn't invited. Mom is doing better than anyone expected. The first month was hard. She cried a lot, questioned everything, wondered what she'd done wrong. But therapy helped her understand that she'd done nothing wrong. That my father's betrayals were his choices, his failures, his shame. She went back to school herself, getting certified as a financial advisor. She says she never wants another woman to be as blindsided by financial deception as she was. She wants to help women understand their finances, protect their assets, recognize the warning signs of financial infidelity. She's started a support group for women going through divorces, teaching them how to audit their accounts, protect their credit, build independent financial lives. She's actually happy now in a way I never saw when Dad was around. Free. Emma starts college in 2 months. Full scholarship to her first choice, plus the money from the settlement and the pawned jewelry. She wants to be a lawyer specializing in family law and financial crimes. Says she wants to help people like us, wants to make sure predators like Dad face consequences. I believe she'll be amazing at it. She has the anger, the drive, and the passion to change things. As for Dad, last I heard, he's living in a small apartment across town, working the same job but struggling to make ends meet now that he's paying off massive debts and child support and alimony. He tried to reach out on my actual birthday a month after the disaster dinner. Sent a card saying he was sorry, that he loved me, that he hoped someday I could forgive him, that he never meant to hurt anyone, that he'd made mistakes, but he was still my father. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday the anger will fade and I'll be able to have some kind of relationship with him. But right now I can't. Right now, when I think about him, all I see is the man who stole from his own children, who betrayed his wife, who was willing to destroy me to hide his shame. But mostly I'm focused on rebuilding, on finishing my degree, on being there for Mom and Emma, on planning a future with Marcus. On being the person I couldn't be when I was drowning in someone else's lies. On proving that I'm not defined by my father's failures or my own. I'm working on my thesis again. It's about family systems and trauma. About how secrets poison relationships. About how truth, even painful truth, is the only foundation for real connection. My advisor says it's some of the best work she's seen from me. I think maybe I needed to live through something this devastating to really understand what I was writing about. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled it. If I wish I'd done it privately, told Mom first, spared the family the public humiliation. If I think I went too far. The answer is no. My father chose that restaurant. He chose that moment. He chose to humiliate me in front of everyone I loved, thinking I was too weak, too ashamed, too broken to fight back. He thought he could control the narrative, make me the villain, distract from his own sins by destroying me first. He was wrong. And when he stood up to destroy me, I stood up and told the truth. Maybe it was vengeful. Maybe it was cruel. Maybe I could have handled it with more grace. But in that moment, sitting there with 26 candles burning in front of me and my father calling me a failure and a liar, I wasn't thinking about grace. I was thinking about justice, about truth, about making sure that if I was going down, I wasn't going down alone. Sometimes the truth is messy. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it ruins birthday dinners and shatters families and forces everyone to rebuild from the ground up. Sometimes it's delivered in anger and tears in front of 100 strangers in a restaurant who'll probably never forget what they witnessed. But it's still the truth. And I'd rather live in the ruins of an honest life than in the palace of a beautiful lie. If you've been carrying a secret that's destroying you, if you've been protecting someone who doesn't deserve it, if you've been sacrificing yourself to keep someone else's house of cards from falling, let it fall. It's not your responsibility to hold up their lies. It's not your job to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Tell the truth. Even when it costs you everything. Even when it hurts. Even when people judge you for how you did it. Especially then. Because the only person you can truly save is yourself. And that has to be enough.